stayed leading up to this vehicle ramming attack. So the question is, was there anybody else that was coming in or out, or perhaps they were there to make food deliveries or other types of deliveries, and they have no nexus to this investigation or individual as well? Hopefully now, with hindsight, in about 12 hours of time for police to do this investigation, in about 15 or 16 hours since the last time they spoke to us, we'll have more clarity as to what they found there in New Orleans. So those are kind of the questions that we're trying to get answers to. But again, increasingly these incidents look like they are separate incidents. The incident at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas and what happened yesterday in New Orleans. And also, they are increasingly looking like these two individuals acted alone. But hopefully this press conference will provide more clarity. We'll look to see if we hear from the FBI at this press conference as well, who's running this investigation. Savannah?
Tom Winter, thank you very much. Again, we are standing by, as you can see, for this update from officials. I'm going to send it back to Tom Yamas, who is on the ground right near the scene of where this attack happened. Tom?
Hey, Savannah, thank you for that. Again, any moment now, we're waiting for the governor of Louisiana to start that news conference here in New Orleans to provide a big update. We expect possibly the announcement that they're going to reopen Bourbon Street to pedestrians. This is something we were told by the New Orleans Police Department earlier today, and that it would be announced later. Gotti Schwartz, who joins me now and joins our coverage here in New Orleans, is here live now for us. Gotti, you were walking around the area earlier today, and I've been noticing there's still police there. There was a lot of cleaning done on Bourbon Street, but it looks like they're getting ready to possibly reopen.
That's right. And, you know, as we look at this press conference here, you've got a member of the National Guard standing there. All around the perimeter, there are members of the National Guard standing next to state troopers. So there are kind of these senses of the remnants of Hurricane Katrina, almost, if you will. And then we were walking around. You could see that people were starting to go in. They couldn't cross Bourbon Street, but those that worked along Bourbon Street were going inside entrances. So it does look like they're getting ready to reopen. We've heard two different times, possibly noon, possibly 3 o'clock. But again, we're going to wait and see what they say during this press conference.
Besides the potential reopening of Bourbon Street, again, which would happen less than 2 days after this terror attack here in the city, the Sugar Bowl is going to take place tonight, 4 p.m. Eastern, one of the biggest football games in all of college football. Lots of fans from Notre Dame here, lots of fans from the University of Georgia, the two teams playing. What does it feel like to you? Because from the sense I get, there are still a lot of fans here, but it's unclear how busy the Superdome will be.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear the music. There are still places
the vibe of New Orleans,
to hear that are celebrating, right? So you've got the fans that are making their way down. The T-shirt sales are coming out. There are hundreds and hundreds of people all around the streets here. And again, you've got the spirit of New Orleans is still very much alive. That resiliency is come back.
Gotti Schwartz, we appreciate your reporting. We'll check in with you. Stand by for us after this news conference. I do want to bring in Frank Figliuzzi. He's a national security analyst for us. Frank, give me the sense. What does your gut tell you? Do you think there are other co-conspirators out there? Or do you think possibly the ISIS connection could be something financial or something different, but maybe a connection overseas and not necessarily other sort of people on the ground here in New Orleans and or in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's, of course, the answer we all are looking for, particularly as, you know, the final decision's made to carry out the Sugar Bowl today. So, look, it's too early, I think, for the FBI to say definitively this man acted alone. That would be wonderful, but I don't expect it because it would just be too fast. The question is whether or not his self-association with ISIS really means that there was some cell operating. There's no evidence of that right now. There's been a lot of rumor intelligence around people in and out of the Airbnb. They've got to run that down.
Frank, I'm going to pause you there for a second. It looks like this news conference is going to start. Let's listen to the governor of Louisiana.
Citizens in Louisiana, that as you travel around the state, you will see the flags of all state buildings at half-mast in honor of those lives that were lost in this horrific act of violence. I also think that it's important to remember that what happened yesterday was akin to those who are old enough to remember jigsaw puzzles, and that you would take a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and you empty the box, and you've got to start sifting through those pieces, and you want to start, if you're real good, you start at the corners, right? Try to put your corners together. And from yesterday to today, over 1,000 law enforcement agents and officers, men and women, have been poring over countless amounts of data, of videos, of surveillances, interviews, tracking down every possible lead that came to us, whether it was the New Orleans Police Department, the Louisiana State Police, the FBI, or our other federal agencies. Also yesterday, I issued an emergency declaration. That declaration was meant to streamline resources and communications between state, local, and federal partners. And we're seeing the results of it. I also would like to remind everyone that what's going on in this city and this state is twofold. We've got an active criminal investigation going on, while we're also continuing to secure the city in preparation for 3 o'clock kickoff time for the Sugar Bowl. With that, I would also remind those who are in the city that as far as state resources are concerned, we have the Louisiana State Police, the Louisiana National Guard, which was part of that emergency declaration, which allowed us to put an entire MP company on the ground. Those become force multipliers, is what we call that in law enforcement and the military. That helps to add to the resources that we have. Wildlife and Fisheries, the Department of Corrections, DSF, DHS, our Veterans Affairs, our Probation and Parole, all state agencies. Any state agency who has a post-certified officers are here in this city to help secure the city. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Christopher Rea, who is the Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counter Terrorism Division. Chris?
Thank you, Governor Landry. Good morning. I am FBI Deputy Assistant Director Christopher Rea. I'm from our Counterterrorism Division at headquarters. I'm also joined by Assistant Special Agent in Charge Alethea Duncan from our New Orleans office, who you heard from yesterday. I'm here to discuss not only the latest investigative information we have here in New Orleans, but I'll also let you know about other investigative activities outside of the state. I first, and most importantly, want to send our deepest condolences to the victims of this horrific attack and their loved ones. 14 innocent victims were killed in this senseless attack, and at least 35 are injured. We cannot ease the grief people in this community and across the nation are feeling at this time, but rest assured, we stand with you and in support of you. All the resources, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later, all the resources of the FBI are being focused on tracking down every piece of evidence, every lead, every interview, every potential lead we've got. While I won't be able to answer all your questions today, my goal is to be as forthcoming as possible with you on what we've uncovered so far. First and foremost, let me be very clear about this point. This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act. This was obviously a critical incident, and with that, lots of information and tips come pouring in from law enforcement, first responders, and the public. We have been aggressively running down these tips and information. As you all know, that takes time, and we will continue to do so until every lead has been followed through on. This investigation is only a little more than 24 hours old. So I ask you to keep in mind that as I go through some of the specifics later. But at this point, currently, and this is another fact I want to be clear on, we do not assess at this point that anyone else involved in this attack except for Shamsa Din Jabbar, the subject you've already been briefed on. A little bit about what the FBI is doing. So we are surging people and assets to the area from across the region and across the nation. Special agents in multiple field offices across the country have been deployed and are assisting with potential aspects of this investigation and following up on every lead. Additional teams of special agents, professional staff, and victim specialists continue to arrive to provide more investigative power and assistance to the victims and their families. We have also forward deployed a number of our critical incident response group assets, including members of our hostage rescue team, special agent bomb technicians, and crisis management coordinators. In addition, we have deployed more evidence response technicians to continue to process the various scenes that we have. So far, we have received just over 400 tips from the public, and that information is being followed up on both here in New Orleans and across the country. Some of the tips are here in New Orleans, and there are other tips in other states across the country that we are following up on. The FBI team and our law enforcement partners here are also reviewing hundreds of hours of surveillance and other video from both the French Quarter and other locations. As for a timeline, at this point, investigators believe JANBAR picked up the rented F-150 in Houston, Texas on December 30th. He then drove from Houston to New Orleans on the evening of the 31st, and he posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. There were 5 videos posted on JANBAR's Facebook account, which are time-stamped beginning at 1:29 a.m. and the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, JANBAR explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer. He also provided a will and testament. FBI and ATF. FBI, we have a couple different scenes at the location. We have released the scene at Bourbon Street. That scene has been released. We also have a scene off of Mandeville address where we're currently searching that scene right now. FBI and ATF agents have secured that house, and that location is being searched for potential evidence. On New Year's morning, JANBAR opened fire after ramming through a blocked-off area of Bourbon Street, used his truck as a weapon to run over the victims. Teams of specially trained victim specialists, again, as I said, are on the ground here in New Orleans, assisting survivors of the attack and loved ones of the deceased. We do not believe the public is in any danger around any of these locations. 3 phones linked to JANBAR have been recovered, and digital media exploitation is a priority to see what is on the devices and determine if there are any other potential leads. Additionally, we have recovered 2 laptops and are currently reviewing them for any potential leads. Those laptops were recovered at the Mandeville address. Evidence technicians will also be going over the F-150 truck JANBAR was driving. As you know, we recovered an ISIS flag from the back of the vehicle. JANBAR declared his support for the terrorist group on social media, as I stated before, as he made his way to New Orleans. FBI bomb technicians also recovered 2 IEDs in coolers, one from the cross-section of Bourbon and Orleans Street, and the second at an intersection approximately 2 blocks away. There were multiple reports of other devices. Those reports turned out to be misinformation or not actual functioning devices. Those are the only 2 devices that we've been able to recover that were functional. Both devices were rendered safe on scene. We did obtain surveillance footage showing JANBAR placing the devices where they were found. 2 other, as I said before, 2 other items of interest were determined not to be IEDs. A little bit about Jabbar. Jabbar himself was born in the United States and is a U.S. military veteran. We are looking in everything in his life. While we have interviewed many people who know Jabbar, we still need to talk to others. Whether you know Jabbar personally, worked with him, served in the military, or saw him in New Orleans or Texas, we need to talk to you. You may not think you have relevant information, but what you know could tie in to one of our investigative leads. Specifically, we want to talk to anyone who was in the French Quarter on New Year's Eve or early on New Year's Day. That includes people spotted near one of the two IEDs on Bourbon Street. The IED was inside a cooler, and many people stopped and looked at the cooler and then continued on their way. Let's be clear, again, we do not believe at this point these people are involved in this incident in any way. We want to speak to them as witnesses and want to know what they saw and when. I went down to the crime scene last night. It is very hard to put into words what it looked like and how difficult it was to see. Anyone with information can call us at 1-800-CALL-FBI or send digital tips to fbi.gov/Bourbon Street attack. Early this morning, evidence response teams finished their work at the crime scene. Bourbon Street has been turned over to the city of New Orleans. As you know, there's also an FBI investigation in Las Vegas. We are following up on all potential leads and not ruling everything out. However, at this point, there is no definitive link between the attack here in New Orleans and the one in Las Vegas. And again, I'll preface everything with what I started with in the beginning, which was this is very early in an investigation like this. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of this tragedy and everyone impacted across the country. They remain at the heart of our investigation. I also, although I've only been on the ground here a short time, I also want to express a sincere appreciation for our partners here, which include the U.S. Attorney's Office, HSI, ATF, the New Orleans PD, the Louisiana State Police, the Governor's Office, and countless others. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the Special Agent in charge of ATF here, Josh Jackson.
Hey, good afternoon. As stated, my name is Joshua Jackson. I am the Special Agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. And ATF's primary mission is preventing, reducing, and solving violent crime throughout the United States and abroad. Solving part is the focus of this investigation. ATF resources that have been brought to bear to the city and to focus with our federal, state, and local partners have been our national response team. We spoke about the scene that's still being processed now. The national response team of ATF